Hello, everyone. This is Mrs. Arechidera, and today we're going to read from a book of short stories called Living Ghosts and Mischievous Monsters, Chilling American Indian Stories. It was written by Dan Sasue Jones. He's a member of the Ponca Nation, an American Indian. He has carefully checked these stories for accuracy and guided them through tradition from learning from other people for the accuracy of these stories. So we know they have a real element to them. I want to read you one of the stories that you can then follow up and read more stories on your own. We look here, we see that it's broken into 5 different chapters. We can read about ghosts, spirits, witches, monsters, and the supernatural. Today, I'm going to read from you from, let's say, chapter 2, which is spirits. I'd like to read you a story called The Rock Baby. And all of these stories have a tradition of being handed down from Indians. These would be great to listen to right before Halloween. The Rock Baby, traditional Kawasu tale in California. Have you ever seen a pictograph, ancient artwork that is inscribed on a rocky cave or cliff? Don't touch it, says a legend of the Kawasu people of California's Sierra Nevada. It belongs to the spirit who lives inside the rock, Rock Baby, or Uwani Azi. Its name is Kawasu, sounds like a cry that an infant makes. Uwa, uwa. The picture is always changing, say the Kawasu, because Rock Baby is always working on it. A passerby must never touch the art or look upon the artist. So before we start, it's pretty neat. Each tale gives you the history and where the story came from and a little bit of information to help you to understand what's going to happen in the story. So when you read it, you have a true to life background history of its story. Some people who lived along the South Fork of the Kern River went out to gather chia seeds. Does anyone know where there's a Kern River is up north? And chia seeds? Chia seeds are good and they provide um, water to your body. It was a beautiful sunny day. The poppies and clover were blooming all along the river. And as the people walked toward the desert, they began to notice the rock walls were covered with pictures of people painted in red and yellow. Can you imagine it? Can you picture the walls? All was quiet as they hunted for food. One man wandered especially close to the rocks as he gathered his food. "Wah, wah," cried a small voice from above him. The man looked up. There he saw a crying infant wedged between 2 rocks. It had no blanket or other covering. Even though the sun was shining, it appeared to be shivering. He made his way up the hill, gathered the infant into his warm, strong arms, and gathered the child gently down the rocky slope. "Come and see the child I found," said the man. The people looked at the man as he stepped down from the rocks. Quickly, they put their hands over their eyes. They were afraid to look. Do you remember? Do you remember when we first talked about the story, when he explained what was going to happen, that it said a passerby must never look upon the artist or touch the art? And what has he just done? So they've looked, he's looked, they won't look. "It could be Rock Baby," cried a young girl. "Don't you see that he has been working on his pictures right here?" She's pointing now probably to those rocks. "He will harm you," an old woman gasped. But the man looked at the baby and felt sorry for it. His wife left her women companions and came over to join her husband. She too looked at the baby. The child's small round face cooed up at them. Its head was covered with thick black hair. They could not tell whether the child was a boy or a girl. It continued to coo in sweet, low tones. "We must take the child with us," said the wife. The couple had recently given birth to their own baby. I'm going to repeat that. The couple had recently given birth to their own baby. They agreed that they should bring the child home as their own, but the others continued to call out to them in fear, their eyes covered. Take him back, cried the young girl again. He will bring harm upon all of us. Listen to her, the rest of the party joined the plea. They all joined around and began to run back to the river. The baby began to cry now, and the husband took even more pity on it. He cooed back, stroking its hair, but the wife stopped. A chill ran through her. Why do you think a chill ran through her? What do you think it is that she heard that scared her so much? Something in its cry did not sound like a baby's cry she knew so well from her own child. Remember, she just had a baby, so she knows what that sounds like. It sounded ancient and evil. The wife became frightened. Take the baby back where you found it, she cried suddenly. I will wait here, but go quickly. Soon it will be dark and we'll lose the others. Sadly, the man made his way up the rock face. As he climbed, he braced himself against the walls covered with the paintings in red and yellow and black. The baby quieted and started to coo again. The man found the spot where the baby had first cried out and gently placed the baby back into its rocky shelter. Underneath the child, he placed his own shirt as a pillow. Then he stepped away to take one last look. What do you think's going to happen? I think this picture might mean something here to the next of us. To his surprise, the baby stood up. It nodded at him. The sweet, cooing mouth twisted into an evil sneer. I think that evil sneer looks like the sneer on this picture. Scary. Then it turned around to the cliff wall and stepped inside. Tied to its back was a baby's cradle. It was the last thing the man saw. He was now blind. That's just one of the stories of these American Indian tribesmen. It's a shiver-inducing collection of lots of short stories that you want to read carefully and quietly because it's scary about the American Indians. Dark figures are in the stories, and it's really kind of a creepy sort of look at American Indians' traditions and their folklore, and filled with lots of different stories. So take a look at it. I recommend it, especially if you're reading it on a cold and stormy night or maybe even close to Halloween.